What's up, you damn gorgeous and beautiful gamers? Welcome back to Role-Playing Games. This is Muriel Connor in the internet, where we like to discuss about RPGs. If you like the content, if you like these conversations with Muriel James, I would very much like to invite you, like always, to hit the like button, because it really helps me like you have no idea. And also, since you're already here, then why don't you take the time to subscribe as well, because most of the people that watches my content are in fact not subscribed to the channel. That being said, let's get right into the matter, which is scaling Ashes of War. It is a very complex mechanics that still has some mechanics from previous entries of the Souls titles. That being said, let's go through the basic first. What is an Ash of War? Well, essentially, an Ash of War is a skill that you place on top of your weapon to change what it does. For example, this one that you see right here. This one that you see me doing right here is the Loretta's Slash. As you will see, reading the skill, it says that leap forward, imbuing the blade with a clean stone, then descend, accelerating into a sweeping slash. So, there are all different kinds of skills that you can place on top of your weapon, but you need to have something very hugely important in mind, that you cannot place anything that you want into the weapon that you want. So you might run into an Ash of War that you would like to very much use, but it will turn out that you cannot use it. Now, why is that? Essentially, when you come into the Ashes of War, and let's say that I select a longsword, I have skills that are restricted to the usage of swords, like for example the Carrion Grandeur. I can place the Carrion Grandeur into my sword, and you will see that the skill changes. Let me find the sword that I place this thing. Here it is. The Carrion Grandeur, I will have now my sword that will be able to cast my skill. But let's say for example that I actually like that skill, and oh problemo, my main weapon is in fact not a sword. As you can see here, my main weapon, it's a spear. So when I open up the tab to place the skill upon the weapon, you will notice that I am not able to place that carrying sword into the weapon. That is because it is restricted to swords. And you could very well place it, I believe, if my memory serves me well, if I'm not mistaken. No. It's on straight swords. Also on curved swords, yes, and twin blades. So you will notice that before you use an Ash of War, you need to have in mind what kind of Ash of War do you want to place into that weapon. But also, it brings a new not a new mechanic, but it is a mechanic that has been present, and this is the one that interests the people the most, and the one that causes confusion the most. As you will see here, when I decide to place an Ash of War onto my weapon, a new tab appears, the Affinity Granted. The Affinity Granted is what is going to dictate what kind of scaling will my weapon have. Now, let's talk about scaling, since you should very much learn about this mechanics. So, let us then speak about scaling. You will notice here in my weapon that I have some little numbers. I'm sorry, not numbers, I have letters. You will notice that I have an E on strength and B on dexterity. B is higher level scaling on my weapon, which means that the more attributes that I place onto dexterity, it's going to increase my damage. Most people confuses themselves and they believe that strength is going to natively increase your damage of your weapon, because it will, but it won't be as good as dexterity. So understand the scaling, understand the stats before you start investing on that beautiful weapon that you have right there that you would like to use. And we're speaking about scaling because Ashes of War actually change quite a lot your scaling. And there's a lot of confusion out there. Some people will tell you that if you want to use a weapon but it doesn't have the correct scaling, then you can place an Ash of War on top of it to be able to use it. But if you want to be efficient, that is not how it's going to work. As you will see right here, let me find the weapons that I use for my showcase. As you will see right here, each weapon, before I add an Ash of War into the weapon, they already have a scaling. So no, they will not change the scaling whatsoever. The Ash of War is not going to place on top of it and change completely the scaling, but rather it will add to the already existing scaling. So, if we part from that point, you will notice right here that I have C on dexterity and E on strength. And do notice please that this seems to be a heavy weapon, the Knight Rider Flail. So you might confuse yourself and say, hey, maybe if I place strength points, this will increase my damage. It's not. And this is also true for some swords that will appear to you at first glance that they will increase their damage with dexterity rather than strength. So, that being said, what happens if I place a heavy Ash of War into this weapon? You will see that it will indeed increase the scaling of my weapon, of my heavy weapon, quote-unquote heavy weapon. It's going to increase it to C, so it might come as a nice upgrade. If I want to use that weapon and I am a strength-based build, I might actually want to place that Ash of War. But if you do that, you're not going to be efficient. Since you already have a C on dexterity, you would be better off placing a keen Ash of War, a keen affinity, I'm sorry. And you will notice that when I place that keen affinity, it will increase my scaling up to B. And that is not only true for dexterity scaling weapons. You will notice that I have another one right here. Let me find it. Let me see if I can find it. This one is going to increase my scaling on B on strength. So that being the case, if we actually change that, you will notice here also that I have E scaling on dexterity. So, if I place the keen Ash of War, it's going to decrease my scaling on strength and going to give me a C on dexterity. This is really bad actually. And it is bad because I want to have the best scaling possible onto my weapon, and the best scaling possible onto my weapon would be rather to increase it to B with a heavy Ash of War. Now, this is especially hugely important for you to understand if you're a hybrid build, because most of the people will tell you, this right here that I have, this is a hybrid build with dexterity and faith. And if I do not want to be investing that much into either dexterity or faith, or I should very much like to focus myself with this Ash of War to increase my damage on faith, I could very well place a sacred scaling on top of it, and it might actually increase my scaling on fate. But wouldn't it be a better idea if I actually place that B that is going to natively increase my damage, and then on top of it buff my weapon? So you will see that if I do not buff the weapon, it will have 311 damage. When I place the buff on top of the weapon, it's going to have 411. And that is only going to increase beyond that the more points that I place into fate. Also, do have in mind that even when it's a fate build, so for example right here you will notice that I have my fate weapon, I can also mix that up with magic damage. So this is the true versatility. Do not let anyone deceive you and tell you that in fact you can place whatever Ash of War that you want to place into your weapon, but rather think a little bit better before you decide what are you going to do. And if you want to be a universalist or something, or be versatile, notice that I am here a paladin that can also place a magic Ash of War to mix those damages and be a damn of a power build. That being said, that is all that you guys need to know about Ashes of War and weapon scaling. I hope that you guys find the video informative, and remember that if no one has told you today that you're gorgeous and beautiful gamers, then you are indeed a gorgeous, beautiful gamer. Remember to subscribe and like the video before you close the door, and I will see you damn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Remember to stay safe out there, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Bye bye.